So up next, sticking with streaming a little bit longer now. Let's talk about Hitman.
Sure.
I will do the synopsis for this if you don't mind, right?
Right.
So funny thing about this movie, right? I was hearing through the grapevine about well how well received it was. I think it probably hit the film festival route and was getting a lot of praise, right?
Right.
But then they say that it was getting this limited theatrical release in the States and then coming out on Netflix now. But I was surprised that when I went on Movie Town's website, I saw that poster there. I saw like, oh, they actually showing Hitman. I say, okay, and that's actually last week when No Boundaries 2024 was showing. So I was
Right.
like, all right, okay. Even though the following week was when it was gonna come out on Netflix, right? But yeah, point is, I assume it still should because if it's one thing about Movie Town, no offense to Movie Town, they will say they're gonna show something and then on the
Well,
day like they
on
just
the
say
fucking
Tuesday, they just drop it. Like they just not
yeah.
they just
Unless
disappear.
that's the thing. That's the thing with movie talk. Unless it on the day website, literally like 2 3 hours before the goddamn screening. Don't trust nothing.
Yeah, boy, yeah.
Don't trust
But
nothing.
but based off the praise that the show is getting, I was considering going to see the show in theaters there, right? But
Sure.
then I was like, all right, well, next week it's coming out on Netflix. I'll talk about that in my review of it, right? In terms of whether it would have been worth seeing on big screen or better just stick to watch it on Netflix, right? So this is the newest film from Richard Linklater, right? I'm not the biggest fan of him, no, but I really admire and yeah, really like downright appreciate his over, right? As far as
Yeah.
film goes, right? He just spans so much genres and just
Right.
has really creative ways
Yeah.
to
And
to
very very
explore genres, you know?
interesting, ambitious filmmaker as well.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes. I
you
mean,
know.
case in point, probably
Right.
to me, like the crown jewel when it comes to his films,
Yeah.
Waking Life. I will
Right.
never forget seeing that on cable. I think it was oh gosh, the movie channel way back when, and just like being blown away by it. Right?
Yeah.
It's
But
one of those shows that I feel like if I watch it one more time, I could say, yeah, I love that film. But yeah,
yeah, his before trilogy is brilliant. Days and
yes,
Confused is brilliant. I don't think it's brilliant, but it's the sheer production ambition of it is great, which is Boyhood. Um,
yes, yeah.
so on and so forth, right? It's just these things are just he's a really really fascinating and interesting filmmaker. In that way, and then one of my what this movie reminded me of a little bit. One of my favorite of his, Everybody Wants Some. I did not expect that
Okay,
shit to be
I
so
I
good.
remember you loving that film, but
It's
I
one of my
still
favorite
haven't seen
movies
that,
of
you know.
his. Yeah, yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of his.
Okay, all right.
This remind me of that a little bit. We'll get into that.
Oh, all right, all right,
Yeah,
all right. And I should mention Two Days and Confused. You know, one of my favorite
yeah,
movies from him.
yeah.
It's actually the only movie from him that I own on Blu-ray. You know, courtesy of Criterion. I could say I have a feeling that Hitman will join that too. But I'm bringing up the whole Netflix thing too is because also like a couple of years ago he put out Apollo 10 and a half, which
Right,
was a show
right.
that I really enjoyed. I didn't love it. But I enjoyed it in terms of just the scope of it and just for me, just how detailed his memories of childhood was, or like the man like do like a literal biography of his life back in 1969 to us, like so detailed, so amazing, right?
Right,
Anyway,
right,
so Hitman was about, right? So it stars Glenn Powell, right, who we will
right.
see later on this year with Twisters, a show
All
that
right.
I mean I don't know if I'll see it, I probably will, but I mean, okay. We're doing
Eh,
Twisters, all right, no problem. But
yeah.
anyway, right?
Uh-huh.
He plays Gary Johnson, and it's set up early on in the movie that Gary is a real person, but the story that they're telling may or may not be true, or is not hundred
Which
percent
I
true, right?
did not know. I was like, oh, it's a real guy. Holy shit! But it,
Yeah, I
they
thought
play.
that was really a
Yeah,
fascinating though, just to set that up
yeah.
early on, right?
Right.
When Gary is introduced, right, he is the psychology professor, and there's like numerous like segments. I'll call them segments, right, or interludes, if you will, in the film where he's just talking to his students and asking them just really like profound questions and just kind of challenging, like, oh, how would
Yeah,
you react, right? I love those moments actually.
it's a great framing issue. It's great framing
Yes.
because it remember a little bit. Remember, Enemy did this where he just mentioning something in the lecture. A lot of
Uh-huh.
shows do this.
Yeah.
It is a lecture, but the lecture talking about the thing, and it just uses a nice framing issue thematically. You know, a lot of movies do this, but I remember Enemy is the one like did this really well. No,
Okay.
yeah,
I have not seen Enemy in a long while. That's another show I need to
right.
recap though, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, as for some odd reason, as a side hustle or gig, if you will, he works for the police as well. So he helps out with like sting up operations. So he sets up cameras and mics and whatnot, right? So
Right.
through some circumstances, this guy, right, Jasper, right, who is played by Austin Emilio, right, who I'm not reading up here was in that show you brought up there. Everybody wants some, so look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, he plays the role of the hitman, right? So basically, what it is, right, is like random people would just kind of hire Jasper, and he would just sort of show up and be like, "Oh, you want me to do this job, blah blah blah," right? And he does, and then once they get enough evidence on the person who's hiring, well, the fake hitman, then the police kind of show up and arrest him and send him to court or whatnot, right? So through some circumstances, Jasper can't do the job, so Gary kind of comes in, right? And
Right.
he assumes yeah, so he
he do
playing
some shenanigans, which was funny. This was kind of funny.
yeah, it was right.
Why
So
he couldn't get through it?
right, and this is the first of, well, basically a brand new gig, right? Where yeah, he is playing a fake hitman, right? But what it is, right? So for every client that stumbles onto, like they reach out to him online, right? He has to assume a new persona, right?
Right.
And he it's just how detailed these personas are, right? And this is just well, I just well, even though all right, so I'm still in the synopsis range, right? So these scenarios kind of play out like little mini movies in a sense where
Yeah.
it feels like they're different, right? They're so distinct, but they all part of the film, right? Because the idea is that it's Gary playing these roles there, right? But all the whole point of it is just to arrest these people, and that's the point, right? So he getting good at it, right? He having fun and whatnot, and the show itself kind of balancing it with what he's talking about, the human psyche and all that kind of stuff, right? And then, well, of course, in a film like this, there's voiceover narration. I'll talk about that in relation to what people would expect from a movie called Hitman, right? The voiceover narration, right? So, in one case now, he meets a woman by the name of Madison, who is played by Adria Torres. And I will lie though, like I know I see her in shows before, like she was in Six Underground, she was in everybody's favorite show back in 2022, Morbius. She was in Andor as well. I won't like Homegirl have like this. She have a kind of a Jessica Alba kind of look to her, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just with
Right.
the Latina look, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
fine or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So she come in and it's like, oh, I want you to kill my husband because he being abusive and all that kind of stuff, right? And in the process now, well, they kind of fall for each other, right? So she is enamored by, oh, he's this badass, he's this mysterious guy, he's a hitman and all this kind of stuff now. And Gary now, who is playing the role of Ron, that's the name that he gives her, just kind of like he just wants the best for her, but of course he's just attracted to her, right? But so point is, with all the role playing he's been doing, he kind of musters up the confidence to start a new relationship. And I should also mention too, he was married before, but that didn't work out, and is through this encounter with his ex now. No, I think it's either they were married or they were in a relationship, but it didn't work, right? So yeah, well, so the ex kind of encouraged him to kind of like find somebody else, and he kind of does that, right? And then you see how things play out now, where he is still assuming this role, but it's now the police kind of on to she because something up with her. I don't want to spoil anything beyond that, right? And I'll stop there. So, yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on Hitman?
I kind of love this, right? Not as much
Yes,
as
I'm glad. I thought I was the
yeah.
only one who kind of loved it too.
Yeah. It's a great like conceit. Again, Linklater is one of these guys who just will take a conceit and then spin it in a real great way. Cause you know what this remind me of a little bit? Like remember Jesse Eisenberg had a movie where he was like a kung fu guy and he wanted to be a badass. So he's playing a role playing as that back and forth.
Oh, I remember really enjoying that film though.
Yeah.
Although
And
you
I
didn't
remember
like it, but
not
I really
liking
enjoyed
that.
that.
I remember not caring for that, and this feels like the workable version to that. Like again, that's still like is a good movie, and I kind of came around to it later. But I don't know, this like, nails like what I wanted from that film in terms of like, oh, this is how to play with the conceit of the man who's the wimp or well, how to think about it. He has a streak capable of violence, but not in the way you think, and they play with that really intelligently. I find with this in terms of the characterization, how they play it out. The climax of it is great, like the cancelled guy, how he comes back into play and what happens to
Oh
him,
yeah.
and so on and so forth. And yeah, and it's just really smart. Like it's smart framing and storytelling, and again, it's just like good filmmaking, classic stuff. Like they just make it work. He makes it work in terms of like how to put a framing device, tell the story, and then have him come back, and then put him up a tree with respect to the whole, because the central conceit is this Nietzschean live life kind of stuff now. And
Yes.
I find that really works well in terms of like the framing. The framing is what makes this brilliant. And that just like you could have a movie that just does it, but because they make this smarter framing conceit of it in terms of the philosophy, it's like, all right, that is a real good way to think about it. Him as a character. And they set that up greater in the beginning when the student says, this is the guy who driving a shitty car. I forget what it is, or he's a
I think it's a Honda Civic. I think it's that, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Little small things like that. And they play it in terms of that conceit. And it's smart stuff when it comes to like just thinking about like how, people should be into it. I can imagine a gendered reading this in terms of like, well, how men should frame themselves into the world and what men, should operate in terms of violence and so on and so forth. Yeah, and then Linklater just frames it really well. This is why it reminds me of Everybody Wants Some, because Everybody Wants Some does a similar thing. In terms of like just how people interact with each other and how they feel about life and what they should do and how you should feel in that sense. And it frames his emotions really intelligently, I think. It's very emotionally intelligent. That's how it felt like me in that sense. And yeah, it just really works. Like it's a great script, smart stuff. Like it just comes together so well now, and I could see why it gets all its accolades and awards and so on and so forth.
Agreed. So let me be the first to say that this is one of Richard Linklater's or Lita's best movies and screenplays, though. Although fun fact, he co-wrote it with Glenn Powell, and it make a lot of sense, right?
Mhm.
Because Glenn really held this film on his shoulders, boy. This guy
Right.
is a star. But before I get to Glenn, right, I just want to touch on the script for a bit, right? So sharp though in terms of the writing, in terms of the dialogue, in terms of just scenarios and how they all play out, right? So yeah, I mean, we were praising, the career of Richard, right? Yeah, the man is up on his side. He want to do a neo-noir romantic comedy slash dark comedy drama. He does decide out to do that, but and it works though.
When I heard Hitman, and I'm thinking, wait, we go and get like another thing, like what that thing
The killer was, and I
the
know
killer,
a
right? I
lot of
thought we was
people
gonna
will
get
go
that.
into this.
And I
Thinking
find
it's a killer.
I didn't hate the killer or anything like that. I had issues with it now in terms of like where it was trying to go for. And in terms of like, and I already thought we was gonna get that. It's like, wait, Linklater, you gonna do this? Got another good filmmaker doing that, and he trying to be all, self-referential kind of bullshit kind of thing. And like, all right, okay, we could, I suppose. But then we get this, and it's just such a better conceit. I won't say better conceit, but like a different conceit, an interesting direction I really didn't expect. And so on and so forth. And yeah, I just thought this was excellent.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I agree as well. So just one thing I just want to make clear, right? So, just off the title alone, I know a lot of people go in expecting this to be some sort of action film. Funny enough, it's actually there's little action in it. What I mean, I mean in terms of like gunfights and shootouts or whatever. You don't get that there at all, and I think that it works though, right? I love that early on, right? There's this great montage basically showing you how movies over the years have created the allure, the mystic allure of the hitman, right? And by the way, as I mentioned, Criteria Collection, mad points for including one of my favorite Yakuza films, Branded to Kill, in that montage. When I see that, I was like, I fucks with this movie. That hard, that real hard. I love that. And it had another Yakuza film, but I can't remember the name of it though. But it looked that shot where it looks like it's this Mexican, not Mexican style. It looked like a duel, like a Western duel. Like, and it's a wide shot. I know that shot from somewhere, but I just don't remember the name of the film, right? So I like how it does that. Also for me personally, I did not expect the show. I didn't think this was gonna be like a dark comedy, I didn't really see it in Richard to make something like that. But I just started watching film and I just kind of taking notes like, oh shit, that's really what's going on there. You know what I mean? I love how deceptive it is, right? For one thing, one show this movie really reminded me of though is Dexter, believe it or not, right?
Right.
Where you have this guy who has a seemingly normal persona. Oh yeah, he's well, in this case he have two, right? He just working for the cops and he's just this humble teacher, but now he's going around telling people, oh, I'm a hitman, and coming up with elaborate stories about killing people, whatnot, right? And that's where the voiceover narration comes into play. And I really love how they played it there, right? The simplest thing would have been to do something similar to like what the killer did with Michael Fassbender, just have him be all nihilistic about why he does what he does, right? But I love how here they kind of flip it where it's like, it's kind of him just trying to understand human condition, just trying to understand, and I love how they frame it in terms of relationships, right? Because here, he clearly over, his divorce, right? So yes, he
Right.
was married, right? Um, but just kind of how he sees the world and how he sees his clients, like, oh, like why would this person want me to go and kill the spouse or whatever, right? So it's that kind
Right.
of mindset, and it's done in this sort of like really um clever kind of way. It's humorous, right? Another thing about one thing about the humor though, I love how dry it is. So I would say it's not like a gut busting comedy, right? But it is very smart with the humor, and I really found myself just not laughing out loud, but just like, this is so clever. I just had this dumb smile on my face from start to end, right? I love how the story is told, how it's paced, how, because I just watched this just going in kind of blind at it, so I did not expect the whole thing in Madison. I love how that plays out as well, and what that explores in terms of how, how relationships work, right? And slight spoiler, there's a moment involving role play that I thought that was really clever though.
Right.
Yes, it's
Right.
there to make the scene sexy and whatnot, and it works,
Right.
right? But at the same time, it shows exactly what Richard is exploring, right? I have to be this tough guy, I have to be like this sexy person, to attract you. But at the same time, it's kind of revealing something kind of sinister about you, though. That
Right.
if the other person found out about it, really got the gist of what going on, I was like, I I don't know, like, should I be with you? So I love how he
Yep.
frames that, right? So you get the goods, right? So you get the romantic comedy, you get the dark comedy as well. You get some nice little drama here and there because yeah, things get intense, kind of emotionally as well, right? And even though I said that there's little action in it, though, there's one moment near the end though that kind of reminds me of Dexter in a sense. I don't want to say what it is,
Yep.
but it's basically the idea behind what a hitman does. That's the best way I could sum it up, right? That's how it plays out though. I thought was perfect. I thought that how it all played out, right? Um, performances were great, right? For
Yep.
everybody, right? I didn't expect to see McGill Rutta in this though. Like, I haven't seen her literally since Parks and Rec. I was like,
Okay.
yo, you there? Like, all right. So, well, to be honest, I haven't been following up her work since Parks and Rec ended, right? But yeah, it
Right.
was cool seeing her, right? I know the Indian guy, well, Sanjay Rao, that's his name, but I know I've seen him in another show, right? And of course, while I mentioned Adri, I thought that she was great. She not just in the looks department because she have that down, but also just the acting range that she had there, right? I love how she just how her character was fleshed out, right? And just in relation to Glenn's character, right? Just how you just learn a little bit more about her, and yeah, she literally, because I mentioned neo-noir here, yeah, she is literally the femme fatale in this, right? But I love how the show kind of builds it up where you would really be thinking about that now, but then when the show ends, like, yeah, she's clearly that, right? And then now, last but well, second but not least, second to last thing I want to mention here too, um, Glenn Powell though, he
Yeah.
shines throughout this
He's
though.
great in this. Yeah.
Just in terms of just everything though, the voice acting, the characterization, what he get or what he brings to both Gary and Ron as well. I just love the characters there. Also love just those little moments though where he's talking to various clients and he has these different personas as well, right? So I love that the show isn't like saying,
He
oh, that's a
shows.
reference to this character from this movie. It's like,
Well, he
no, it's
shows.
just a random character that he come up with, but it feels like, oh, this could be from another movie, and those scenarios feel like they are lifted from other movies as well too. But I love how
Yeah.
detailed and how distinct they are. And they're generally funny too, right? But yeah,
Yeah, no, he shows a lot of range in this, like a
yes,
shocking amount of. Listen, I'm not a big Glenn Powell fan. He's just come across like filler guy, action guy. He's always feel like substitute action person. He always felt like that to me. He have that look, but it's a kind of flat look, and it's not that great for me. But he's just like, oh well, in our earlier time, he would have been a bigger star. And he's just come across, and then to see him showing up in so many remakes and this kind of things, like, oh, he's in Top Gun, and then now he's in Twisters, and I'm all right. I kind of I already fed up by him somehow because of the template of what he is. In this, he's excellent. Like, he really he plays totally different from what you expect. Didn't expect this as he was. And yeah, he shows a lot of shocking range in this.
yes, agreed. And of course, last but not least, we have to talk about Richard himself. Well, directing, yeah, he killed it with it. So just again, just showing why he is just, yeah, one of the most renowned directors though. But again, it's just so surprising that he would pick these particular like subgenres now. You know what I mean? Well, not so much the romantic comedy and whatnot. He did that before, and well, more dramas, and that's why I really more associate him with, right? But like neo-noir, though, like I didn't think that he had it in him to do it, right? And yet, in his own kind of quirky way, it still plays out like a neo-noir, even though it's not overly violent or action
Right.
pack or whatnot. I think that totally works, right? So that's the last point I'll make, and then I'll get to read it, right? In terms of watching it on Netflix, yeah, like it's a great Netflix watch, right? You know what I mean? Like if you have nothing to do, or if you're just curious, you just put it on your seat, right? And you have a great time. As far as like seeing it in theaters, I would have been like, you know what, I wouldn't have felt the need, honestly, to go and see it in cinema anyway, right? But that's not to say that it wasn't worth showing in theaters where it showed down here anyway, right? I can't really say for sure. But as far as Netflix though, it's a perfect spot for it. And I honestly see this along with Apollo 10 and a half showing up one way or the other in on the Criterion collection. Because look, the Before trilogy is up there.
Yep.
Dazed and Confused that I mentioned before is there. It's only a matter of time before Weekend Life and what's the other one again, boy? The other like surreal sci-fi animated thing that he did. Keanu Reeves was the star of it. A Scanner Darkly. It's only a
All
matter of
right,
time
right, right,
for
right. Yeah, he did that. I
short
forget he
video.
did that, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Criterion fucks with the guy, right? That's what they
Yeah.
do, right? But yeah, I absolutely enjoy this though. But for me personally, why I enjoyed so much though was just the writing, was just so brilliantly written. No, like I just watch this, like wow, I wish I could write this though, like something that, like so in essence, it's about the hitman, it's about the archetype of the hitman,
Yeah.
but it does not give you the stuff that you would expect from a hitman movie, like The Killer, for example, right? And yet
Right.
in a way it kind of plays out like those shows, right? So that's why I made a reference to Dexter. It's the psychology, the mindset that will go behind, oh, I just killing somebody that I don't know or I'm actually familiar, for somebody who, as far as I know, probably petty, so petty that they willing to pay me money to kill this person, right? So it's like that.
Right.
So
Right.
and that's why I love that they frame that aspect with him being a psychology teacher and the
Right.
questions that he asks the students or whatnot, right? So just brilliant writing, true and true. Performances great, direction strong. Yeah, I absolutely love this. I'll just give my rating one time. Strong 4 to a very light 4.5 out of 5. This is one of the year's best films. Even though I know the movie came out in 2023, but okay, it
Right. It
released
came out last year,
officially.
right? Okay.
Yeah, it will
Okay.
release officially this year. So yes, you could definitely see this in my best stuff. I'm not sure if this will be top 10 for now. I genuinely can't say. But yeah, hands down, this is one of the best shows of this year. And it's on Netflix. So y'all have no excuse, right? But just fair warning, don't be fooled by the title. I know that there'll be a lot of people that are going blind and think that this is an action comedy, but no, it's not an action comedy at all, right? So just be mindful of that. Just be mindful, even though the title is Hitman, it's much different. And don't think that it is, related to the video game or the
Right.
classic. And I'm being sarcastic here, movies, based off of the game, right? It's nothing like that.
Yeah, no, it
So
is Oliphant. Yeah, no, Timothy
yeah,
Oliphant movie.
it's not a Timothy Oliphant movie.
Yeah.
It's not that,
Right.
right? But yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts on rated.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. When you look, I am a sucker for meta, and I'm a sucker for, I don't know what to call it, but organic meta. You're not telling the audience, look, this is what it's about, that kind of thing. But it's just like something like Dan Harmon or anything like that. But it's really, really like intense stuff. They make it really, really work, and it just shockingly smarter than I thought it would have been. And yeah, I really appreciated what it was going for and how smart it is. Surprisingly smart it was. 8 out of 10.
Right.